Welcome back to The Explainer, everyone. Okay, if you're ready to absolutely sharpen your focus and honestly completely rewire how you handle your own internal chaos, well, you are exactly in the right place today. We're looking at a text that a lot of people view as purely spiritual, but we're going to look at it through an entirely different lens. We're diving into a precise 2,000-year-old manual for literally hacking human attention. We're pulling directly from the Bhagavad Gita, specifically the end of Chapter 5. And look, this isn't about some vague head-in-the-clouds philosophy. No, it's a highly structured, step-by-step instructional guide to taking absolute control of your mind.
Okay, let's dive into this. Just think about this idea for a second. Peace is what remains when your internal civil war stops, right? We spend so much of our lives actively chasing peace. We think of it like it's a destination, like a new job, a vacation, or some elusive state of mind we just have to aggressively manufacture. But the source text we're breaking down today completely flips that on its head. It tells us that true focus and genuine peace aren't things you have to go out and find. They are actually the baseline reality that just naturally appears the exact moment you simply stop fighting yourself.
So to decode exactly how to stop that internal civil war, we're just going to follow the text's exact roadmap. First, the bridge to meditation. Second, locking the outer doors. Third, the physical blueprint. And finally, the peace formula. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The Bridge to Meditation. So, just to give you a little bit of context here, we are zooming in on the final 3 verses of Chapter 5. That's verses 27 to 29. And these are incredibly important because they act as this critical bridge right before we get into the deep yoga of meditation.
What's really fascinating about this specific juncture in the text is the massive shift in tone. See, up until this point, Krishna has been talking about these sweeping cosmic concepts, right? Broad philosophies about life and duty. But right here, he steps completely away from the theoretical. He literally drops the broad strokes and suddenly hands over this absolute, highly tactical blueprint for managing human attention. It's almost like the grand philosopher just takes off that hat and puts on the hat of a master tactician, giving you the exact coordinates for securing your own mind.
Moving on to Phase 2, locking the outer doors. Now, what's really interesting about this is it introduces what we can call the exclusion principle. Basically, true focus absolutely requires you to secure the perimeter of your mind before you try to do any of the deeper inner work.
The text gives us this very specific instruction about shutting out external sense objects. Now, on the surface, okay, that just sounds like ignoring the room around you. But actually, it's a profound psychological manual. When you sit down to focus or meditate, you have to intentionally close the open windows of your mind. Think of it kind of like closing the tabs on a heavily cluttered web browser, right? We've all been there. You aren't just shutting out the physical noise, you're actively shutting out the tabs of memory, the tabs of past regrets, and those tabs of future ambitions. You are issuing a psychological command to lock the outer doors so you can finally secure the inner room of your mind.
All right, so once those psychological doors are locked, we move into Section 3, the physical blueprint. This is where we transition from psychological theory into pure physical execution.
Now, if you've ever tried to meditate, I bet you know these traps all too well. If you keep your eyes fully closed, well, what happens? You fall asleep. Your brain just thinks it's bedtime. But on the flip side, if you keep your eyes wide open, you get completely distracted by every single object, every shadow, and every little movement in the room. The text completely anticipates this totally human struggle and prescribes the perfect middle path. A half-closed gaze fixed steadily right between the 2 eyebrows. It's a remarkably precise physical hack to bypass the 2 biggest points of failure in meditation.
So, the crucial point is how we actually manage our internal energy once that gaze is fixed. The text instructs us to completely balance the inward and outward breaths moving inside the nostrils. In Sanskrit, the inward breath is called prana, and the outward breath is called apana. Now, it is absolutely crucial that we don't just brush these words off as mystical jargon. This is highly precise biological vocabulary. Prana and apana represent the very real, literal mechanics of your respiration and energy flow.
So, by consciously balancing the prana and the apana, that inward and outward breath, you're actually doing something deeply physiological. You are directly harmonizing your biological nervous system. This isn't just about, feeling a little relaxed. No, this is biological engineering. By balancing the breath, you automatically subdue that frantic restlessness of both the mind and the intellect. The text even notes that a person who masters this physical and respiratory alignment is already liberated from their internal chaos. It's a real game changer.
And this brilliantly illustrates the beautiful, incredibly clean simplicity of verses 27 and 28. It's literally an actionable 3-step manual. Step 1, shut out external objects and close all those psychological browser tabs. Step 2, fix the gaze half closed between the eyebrows to avoid falling asleep or getting distracted. And Step 3, balance the inward and outward breath to harmonize the nervous system. 3 steps. That is the entire tactical physical blueprint right there. Which brings us to Section 4, the peace formula. The pacing of the text slows down a bit right here, and honestly, so should we. We've secured the perimeter. We've stabilized the nervous system. Now the text delivers what's known traditionally as the Shanti mantra. Let's move to and see how this builds the ultimate psychological realization. Krishna states here that ultimate peace comes from realizing 3 fundamental truths about the universe. First, that he is the ultimate benefactor and the ultimate enjoyer of all our sacrifices and hardships. Second, that he is the supreme governing force of all planets and celestial dimensions. We're talking total cosmic authority. And third, and this is definitely the most important one, that he is the closest, most intimate, well-wishing friend of every single living being.
So, why do these 3 truths actually matter to a focused learner? Well, because when you combine them, they force a massive paradigm shift. You realize that the universe is not some hostile, random void that's just waiting to crush you. It's not an empty, chaotic space where you're wandering entirely alone. Instead, it's fundamentally rooted in a loving, highly protective divine framework. Think about it. The highest governing force of the cosmos is literally described as your most intimate, well-wishing friend.
And here is the ultimate payoff of everything we've covered in this explainer today. When you successfully use this tactical blueprint to lock the outer doors of your mind, and then you fully internalize these 3 cosmic truths, something miraculous happens to your psychology. Your systemic anxiety permanently evaporates. It just goes away. That deep existential dread that drives so much of our daily distraction, it just dissolves. The architecture of the mind is secured, the universe is recognized as a friend, and that internal civil war we talked about at the very beginning, it finally ends, and peace is simply what remains. I want to leave you with a final thought to really carry with you today. If you actually apply this blueprint, and you truly deeply internalize that the universe is fundamentally a well-wishing friend, what are you still fighting? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Take a breath, balance that prana and apana, and I'll catch you next time.